You know what I'm talking about. You were with me when they count me out. So I put them boogers on you now. Diamond dancing while you sway. We took it slow like on the 405. You ain't doubt it, never roll your eyes. Now them boogers on you froze like mine. On your wrist and neck and rain. They dancing, dancing. Can't help it, I wanna show her off. Pull up on him, then we skirt off. She stuck with me when I was worse off. Now we got guap by the furlong. Cause she the only one who ride like that. From the jump, she by my side like that. With me when I'm low high like that. So anything she wanna buy like that. So point it out and we can get that. The guala baby we can get back. The boogers on you, you can beat that, yeah. You know what I'm talking about. You were with me when they count me out. So I put them boogers on you now. Diamond dancing while you sway. We took it slow like on the 405. You ain't gotta never roll your eyes. Now them boogers on you froze like mine. On your wrist and neck and rain. They dancing, 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 dancing like ballet. They dancing, 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 dancing like ballet. I've been meaning to text you, I've been meaning to call. I ain't mean to upset you, didn't mean it at all. Know exactly how you like it, all your little fetishes. See my long neck, good for reaching all them little crevices. Yeah, we can drop top in the 76. In a wide body so that ass can fit. I admit it, been dealing with issues. So just cause I ain't with you don't mean I miss you. I ain't big papi and mama mamacita. No Richard Nixon, I want in a picture. We'll do it again like we don't get amnesia. So baby, next time that I see you, you know what I'm talking about. You were with me when they count me out. So I put them boogers on you now. Diamond dancing while you sway. We took it slow like on the 405. You ain't doubt it, never roll your eyes. Now them boogers on you froze like mine. On your wrist and neck and rain. They dancing, 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 dancing like ballet. They dancing, 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 dancing like ballet. They dancing, dancing, dancing.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Crush Live Call-ins. I am your host here, Bart Hanson, and we do this show every Monday at 5:45 Eastern Time. We have a little Mark Goon playing us in here. That is Squish My Tomato. Check his YouTube out over at Mark Goon. But I went to the gym and I have that song on my playlist, so I decided to intro the show. So we do it at 5:45, unless on Mondays, like I might be playing on the TCH live stream, possibly next week. So take a look at the YouTube channel because I'll put the call-in time up. If I'm playing on the show, it'll be earlier, maybe a few hours, 2 or 3 p.m., something like that. But if you want to get on the show, as always, you can email me at bart@crushlivepoker.com with the hand history. No hand replayers, please. And keep it brief for my sanity. Just a little description of the hand. We actually have 5 callers here today, so we're going to zoom through. And I will be in the chat box as well, reading the comments. And already a couple of comments that, how do you send the hand? Email it to me ahead of time, bart@crushlivepoker.com. And also someone asked me about the Live at Hustler. Yes, I will be doing the first week of Live at Hustler with David Tuckman, probably commentating on 4 of the shows and playing on 1. That is tentatively scheduled for mid-July, but it's not necessarily down. The date isn't down set yet, but I spoke with Ryan Feldman recently, and his plan is to actually stream every night. So there is a lot of live streams out there now. We've got 2 in Austin. You have TCH in the Lodge. You've got the ones in Dallas that TCH is doing. You've got the thing in San Antonio. You've got Jacksonville. You have Live at the Bike. Now you're going to have Hustler. It'll be interesting to see how that sort of affects things. Do me a favor, if you like the stream, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn notifications on so that you will get notified. And of course, this call-in stream will go up unlisted, but if you're a Crush Live Poker subscriber, you will have access to it, and I will always give you a response, and you'll be first up in the queue to get on the show. So let's get into it here on June 14th, and we are going to start here in the Michigan area, and this is Robert. Hello, Robert. You are up first, sir. Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You got a hand for us, Robert?
Yeah, this is at the Firekeepers Casino in Battle Creek. I'm playing 2-5 to 200,000. It's match stack.
Oh, 200 to 1,000.
So this game,
200 to 1,000 match stacks,
200.
similar to Texas. Okay, great. Love match a stack because in essence that means it's uncapped, and with the exception, I guess, of the beginning of the game, right? That's about it. Yeah.
This game usually runs if it starts on Friday, it'll run through into Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And then once in the evenings.
Okay.
So it doesn't continuously go on, but there are people that'll jump in if someone leaves and buy up to 4,500, 6,000, whatever people are at.
Okay.
So as it goes on, it runs bigger and bigger.
Great.
Stack sizes of the players that are in there. The big blind's got 665.
Okay.
Middle position 2 has 1250.
Okay.
And I'm in the cutoff, and I have them both covered.
Okay. Great.
The button has been straddled quite a lot throughout the night, be it 10, 15, pretty standard. At this hand, there's a button straddle for 15.
Okay.
The big blind limps. Middle position raises to 60. He'd been very aggressive, very active. In the last 2 hours, he'd been in most hands.
Okay.
I look down, I got ace of spades, queen of spades. I make it 215, trying to isolate it, get a one-on-one against him.
Mm-hmm.
Big blind calls, and the middle position player calls.
So the big blind limp calls.
Yep. So
this is a button straddle, which means it sounds to me like it goes in order, obviously. So the blinds act first, big blind limps, MP2 to 60, you 3-bet. I like the 3-bet in the cutoff with ace, queen of spades to 215. Big blind calls, MP2 calls. It's interesting, too, just to note, I've had this question passed along to me throughout the years of sort of the strategy of how you play the blinds against a button straddle, because especially the more long-handed you are, I could make a case for sometimes even playing like a limp strategy, throwing in some limp calls, limp folds, and limp re-raises just because you're so out of position and it's so strong to straight open. So it's kind of interesting. But I mean,
a lot of times
a limp 3-bet call is pretty sort of recreational.
Yeah, that was weird. There's not tons of 3-betting, and usually when it happens, it's pretty strong. And sometimes in these games, if I don't want it to see it get too big, like some of my suited connectors or lower pairs, I'll kind of just limp, wait for the raise, knowing that I'm going to call it.
Uh-huh. All right, so let's go to the flop.
All right, flop was 5 of diamonds, 9 of spades, jack of spades.
5 of diamonds, 9 of spades, jack of spades. So you flop the nut flush draw.
I do.
Okay.
So big blind checks.
Okay.
Middle position 2 leads out for 325.
So I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that I have this correct. So MP2, who is the guy who opened and then just called because you have the betting lead, he leads into a 3-bet pot. Is that right? Basically.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of bizarre, I would say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I'm stuck in this situation where the pot it's now like almost $1,000. It's like
Right.
$987 when you count it.
Right.
If I call, the big blind only has 450 left behind, and it's 13-12. So he's kind of priced into push, which would price everything else into pushing, and I would just end up being all in anyway. So I was wondering, like, what do you do in this situation?
Well,
do you end up trying to get fold equity, or do you just kind of flat call there?
Well, it's kind of weird though too, because this guy leading into the 3-better when people don't usually lead like really big hands, and doing some math, it looks like you said, you probably have like 700 to 750 effective after a call, and the bet and the pot would be like 13. So I just think that if there's any frequency with these stack sizes of a bet fold, of a guy sort of seeing where he's at with a hand, I would just jam here. With these stack sizes, it's interesting. Like if you were deeper, but I would jam. And then one of the really good things that might actually happen, I mean, maybe it's once in a while, is the bet in the jam is so scary. Maybe the big blind folds out. He could fold out Jack 10. Who knows? I mean, that's a lot of action ahead of him. And then the other guy, he might either bet fold, or you could sometimes get it in versus him with a dominated draw. Although you do have the queen. Like if you had ace, king of spades, it would probably be more likely if he had some sort of combo draw or something like that. But I think I would just jam here with these stack sizes.
Okay. So that is what I did. I looked it over, and I just kind of ran it through in my head. Like if I'm going to try anything, like I know I want to see the rest of the cards, and jamming I thought would give me the most fold equity. So I jammed. Big blind snap calls.
Okay.
Then the middle possession 2, he tanks for a little bit, like a minute and a half, and then he decides to call.
Okay. So everybody's all in.
So, yep, everyone's all in.
And then what are the hands? Before you tell me the run out, what are the hands?
So I never actually got to see what the middle position player had.
Oh, okay.
The big blind had pocket jacks.
Okay. So big blind has Jack. Yep. And then did you make your flush?
Yep. I hit a queen of clubs on the river, and that was good against this hand.
So
I'm
the turn was
a
brick.
Maybe
turn was a brick, maybe like a 3 or something.
Yep. Yeah, it was a 3 hearts and then queen of clubs.
And of course, there's money on the side too, right? So you win some money on the side, right, from this guy?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I pretty much broke even this hand.
So let me ask you a question. And again, I've put out certain things where I've said I don't like sort of, it's not a slow roll, but I think that like especially against a recreational player, and there's a lot of people who disagree with me, when someone says good call, I just think it's in very, very poor taste for a professional to like wait for the guy to like turn his hand over when the guy says good call. Just turn your hand over. And then I talked about a couple videos ago where when you're actually in position and you want to see a hand, you don't really have to do anything. Like you're in position here, everybody's all in. So this guy turns over Jack. Obviously, that's going to win the main because he's first to show. Although, wait a minute. Do they make you turn it over because you're last aggressor? It really depends on the situation. In LA, it used to be if action went in before the river, it's like check. So the out of position guy goes. Did they make you turn your hand over first?
Or you just turned it over first.
Okay.
I just turned it over first.
Yeah.
Just because he looked like he really didn't have anything, and I just didn't.
Okay.
He didn't look that confident.
If you're
like
playing,
maybe he had a missed straight draw or something.
Right.
I'm
if you're playing in a game where if you get it all in and then they just make the person from out of position roll over first, you actually didn't have to do anything. Like the big blind could just turn jacks over and then it's on the next guy. If you really want to do that, I have no problem with you just turning your hand over. But yeah, I think that any time you're dealing with like maybe half a pot size bet left and you have like a really good draw, and especially too, like when someone's leading into you as the 3-better, it's a really, really good play to just jam. I mean, if you had aces, kings, or queens here, you're jamming too, right? I mean, or maybe even ace-jack suited for that matter. Ace-jack suited, you might even feel slightly better about it, although you won't have as much equity against something like king, queen of spades. But it just inherently balances itself with the jam, with the nut flush draw,
Okay. Yeah, I get you. I felt like really unsure in that spot because it was like with the stack sizes, everything was just kind of awkward with it being a 3-bet pot, and then the stack sizes with the big blind stack was not like he wasn't bought in for the top amount, and then we were bought in for over that amount. But with him coming along, it kind of makes it a 3-way 3-bet pot, kind of inflates everything a little bit.
Right, but I mean, like I said, the best case scenario for you is if you jam and then you get like the big blind to fold like 10s or 8s, and the other guy bet folds, or you get it in ahead against the other guy. That's a really good scenario. But thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Again, guys, if you want to get on the show, you can shoot me an email, bart@crushlivepoker.com, to pre-submit your hand. If you're a Crush Live Poker subscriber, I give you first priority. I read them all. I give you a response. If you're not, I still do read them all depending on the time. Once in a while, I'll give a response. But please keep it as concise as possible. And don't give me a hand replayer. Let's go to our next caller here. I believe that this is George. Is that right, George? Is that you, George?
Yeah, Bart. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, George?
Hi. Yeah, we're at Borgata 2-5.
Okay.
1K cap.
Okay.
The 1K effective is me, and the villain covers me. Always got over 2K.
Are they still doing one blind or something like that, Borgata? Is that the Borgata?
Yeah, it's optional straddle. It's optional straddle. 8 max now, post-COVID.
So it's not 2-5, it's just 5, basically?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
2-5.
There was somebody, maybe I'm confusing the location, but a couple people had called in about some game. Oh, I think it was in Reno. That's what it was. It was Reno where they're just playing one big blind. But anyways, okay, so 2-5, 1K cap. Yep.
Yeah, it's a Thursday night, and
yeah.
It's pretty lively, whatnot. And I open up. I haven't played much. I just sat down about an hour in. I haven't done much at all.
Okay.
I'm in the hijack, and I open up to 30 with 2 black kings.
And what are the stack sizes?
Everybody's got it right. Yeah, it's a little. Everybody's got it close to 1,000.
Okay.
Maybe a little less.
We'll just put it 1K effective. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And cutoff calls.
Okay.
The button calls, small blind call, and big blind call.
Cutoff button, both blinds call. So it looks like it's 5 ways. You raised to how much again? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I open up to 30. I know it's a little large.
30. Okay. Yeah. Is that? Yeah. I was gonna say, is that a little bit large on the large side?
People are all over the map in that table when I sat down. It almost didn't even matter. I mean, I knew I was most likely going to get action, and then once the cutoff called, it started the trickle down effect, as they do.
Yeah, I mean that's really the adjustment to make. I see it like in the Texas 1-3 match the stack games where there's super deep stacks. You're probably losing value by not upping your pre-flop raise if people are going to call with static ranges. Meaning like if you're going to raise to 20 and they're going to call this with the same ranges that you're raising to 30, then by all means raise to 30. So all right, 150 going to the flop.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really remember exactly what it is, but it's all 3 diamonds, and I flopped a set. I flopped top set.
Well, you had it in the email, didn't you?
Yeah, but I don't want to, just throw out numbers. I don't remember the actual cards. It was 3 diamonds, and it was top set, and I know, it's almost not even relevant. You'll see.
Okay. I mean, I would think that it would always be relevant because of straight draws and stuff like that. But, okay,
right.
I'm with you. I'm actually as you talk, I'm going to look back here at what you had wrote. Oh, maybe you didn't put it in the email. Oh, okay.
Because I honestly don't remember. I didn't want to throw out some bullshit.
Okay.
So I lead out right away. I bet 120. Folds around, small blind calls.
All right, so you bet 120. Small blind calls only?
Yeah.
So now the pot's like 390. Okay, so I always look for positional awareness in these types of situations. You have to also be definitely careful, especially with top set on a monotone board. Why would I say that you have to be careful with top set on a monotone board? on a monotone flop?
Maybe because, you know, I'm covering the top pair. I mean, that eliminates the king. And I mean, when you say be careful, I mean, I'm at this point, you know, I'm kind of excited, but at the same time, you know, I got to start, you know, protecting my equity, right?
I mean, that's exactly right. What I was gonna say is you got to be careful is that, you know, when you put somebody on a range of hands, right, on a monotone board that they could beat you or that might call. When you have top set, you're blocking a lot of the top pair, so you have to watch that. Like, I would be more comfortable with like middle set than top set on a monotone board, just because people are going to be weighted more towards flushes. It's good that obviously there was only one caller. So small blind calls, pot's 390. Okay.
Turn, you know, it's a brick. You know, it doesn't even complete it doesn't complete a straight, and obviously the flush is still out there, but it's a brick. It's like a heart.
Okay. Well, you had 7 o'clock. Let me do this. Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna put King Deuce 3, all diamonds, turns to 7 of clubs. Okay.
Again, I bet 250.
So small blind checks.
I'm sorry, yeah. Small blind checks to me.
And
I bet 250.
Okay.
He calls.
All right. So small blind calls. So now the pot is 890, and if you guys started with right around 1,000, he probably has like 600 or so left. I think that's what I'm looking at your email too.
I do. He has me covered.
Right. Okay. So 600 effective left. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the river is another brick. I thought I put it in the email that it was the black 7. I'm sorry, but the river is the black 7, or however the hell you want to put it. It was another brick.
But it didn't pair the board, basically, right?
I wish.
All right, so I'm going to put an inconsequential, because it sounds to me like we're not dealing with any straights, because if I put King Deuce 3 7 and then, you know, river's a 4, it could be straight. So I'm going to put King Deuce 3 all diamonds, turns a 7, river's a 9, and so now we're looking at a flush being, there's just no straights out there, right? So okay.
No, man, really.
Yep.
And he takes he pauses. That guy at this point is pretty stoic about his behavior. You know, he's across the table. You know, he pauses. He takes a look at my stack, and he just jams, dude. I mean, the timing was pretty impeccable. You know, it's just I don't go much, man. I studied freaking philosophy my whole life. I just try to base on emotions and shit. I was just like, this guy. He just looked like it was tough, man. He jammed in for 600, and I was stuck. I really didn't know what to do. And,
okay. So, yeah, I remember this. So you were a late add-on, George, because to this, you know, I'd slot this in. So I kind of, you know, looked. I would have cleared up just a little bit of the details in the email. But here's the point of this hand. So we've got top set, and it's monotone board, and there are no straights out there. And the reason why I think that this hand is interesting is because now basically what this guy has done is he's check called, and now he's just moved all in from up front on a brick, right? Yeah. And you have the best possible hand you can have that's not a flush, obviously, right? There's no straights out there. You've got 3 kings. So he bet 600. So, you know, if you were to look at this, the theory of this, I mean, this might be a really live sort of thing. If you look at the theory of this spot, it would say, well, from a minimum defense frequency standpoint, like the guy's betting 600 into 900, so it's about 2/3 the size of the pot. You know, he only needs to get a bluff through 40% of the time. So you need to call with 60% of the hands that you arrive with here at the end. Is king in that top 60%? Certainly, I would say that it is. You know, you sort of going down the line, and then just to really simplify it, you have to have some flushes not to call with. Now, with that being said, I will add the caveat, and this is a gross exploit. I could see folding here. And the reason why I could see folding here, I don't know how loose the guy is in the small blind. You open to 30. I don't think here's what you beat. What you beat is the ace of diamonds that's just totally busted out. Now, what people don't understand in this spot is that the small blind shouldn't really have a ton of offsuit ace X here. Now, even if we give him like ace 10 plus, like ace 10, ace jack, ace queen with the ace of diamonds, I don't see those hands taking this line really at all. So when you sort of dismiss, because they think that they've got showdown value, they're just not, and the check call, blast all in on a blank, it's super, super strong. Now, if I was going to Borgata and I didn't know the players, I'm sorry, I can't fold here, but I could see folding, and at the lower stakes that you go and the less sort of maniacal or spazzy a player is, I could actually see folding here.
I know. I gave the guy respect, man. He didn't show me much, He was waiting for 5-10. I think I took that. I may have misconstrued that for an even stronger player, I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what happened. I don't want to spoil it, but.
Well, you got to tell what did you do?
Of course. I'm so excited about telling. I tanked. I tanked for a while. I really did. And I remember what you saying, but then I'm trying to compartmentalize certain things. And I remember what you saying, just a jam after me showing all that strength is like, that would be a tough bluff, man. That would be a real tough bluff, and folded. I folded. And I asked him actually before that, I said, will you show if I fold, And eons ago, if someone would say that, I thought I was the creator of that little silly strategy. I would snap call. If they said, oh, sure, I'll show you, I would snap call. He said, yeah, sure, I'll show you. But I still tanked, and then I folded. And he showed the 9. He showed pocket 9s with the 9 of diamonds. He had air. And his reasoning was, oh, well, I knew I had a diamond, so if I hit, I was good. So the guy was just kind of a fish the rest of the night.
I'm sort of giggling because I put the 9 on the end, but okay. So it's 9, so there's right, and there's no 9. So he basically just had a bluff. So I mean, you sort of have that little. So I guess I could just put the 8. It's the same difference. You sort of have that little spaz factor that, or I guess that's a bad word nowadays. I'm trying not to use it, but and again, if I don't know the players, that's why sometimes, and I see some of these too, these submissions where there's just a weirdness factor that comes out once in a great while. So, I mean, it is what it is. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. So, by the way, I wanted to get to that concept as we have Ryan coming up next, but if you've listened and watched this show, I slotted that guy in at the end, this morning because there was a cancellation. I would have had the details down. I did not realize that he didn't have the details down, and kind of brings up an interesting point too, because I really think that hand recall is so critical to improving yourself as a player, because as much as somebody says, well, it's all diamonds and the flop is irrelevant, the run out and the texture of this particular board, it's going to be very, very unlikely by the river that the flop and the run out is irrelevant. Very unlikely. So people tend to wash over these things. And I've had certain situations like a few weeks ago too, where, there was obviously a high level player that was called in a hand, and we talked about how the turn was a blank and he didn't really know what the turn was. But I said in this case that it was okay because it was irrelevant. But most of the time it is relevant in a given, situation. I tried to write this hand up so that no straights came in, because I think what that guy was going for was nothing changed, no straights or anything like that. But there are other submissions that I get where the guy's like, oh, it was a brick. It was like this card. And I'm like, it can't be a brick. It's going to bring in a straight, at least. Like the board's like King, Jack, 5-6. They're like, oh, the river is a brick. And I'm like, what brick? There's no brick. That's non-changing. So again, if you want to get on the show, you can email me at bard@crushlabpoker.com. And I really feel strongly about hand recall, because if you're not learning from a previous hand because you're washing over the memory of it, then you're not really gaining experience. And you could be playing for years and years and years and just not be gaining any experience at all. So I think that's a very important thing for somebody to actually work on as a learning technique and a tool. All right, let's go to our next caller here. We got Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Bart. How we doing? Can you hear me okay?
Sound great, Ryan. You're on the computer, huh?
Yeah. Does it sound good? It's coming through the good microphone. So.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I've been watching the show forever, and I couldn't believe it. Sent you an email, and then 30 minutes later, you're like, hey, you want to come on? Absolutely.
Yep. We had a couple people sort of bail at the last second, unfortunately.
Oh no.
this week, so that's why. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I was the fortunate beneficiary of that.
Yep.
Cool. So you want me to
Yeah.
get started with some
What's the
context
game
here?
size and where are you playing at?
Sure. So we're playing 2-5 $800 cap at the Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut.
2-5 $800 cap. Now I just went back at Foxwoods. I just went back to visit my parents for the first time post COVID in the Boston area.
Yeah.
And I went to Chasers. I actually wanted to hit up a couple of other New Hampshire clubs, but obviously I've played at Foxwoods, not a ton. And, with these New Hampshire clubs, MGM Springfield, although I don't know if they're back open, who knows what's going on with Encore Boston, and then Mohegan Sun, it just kind of looks kind of dead over there to me. I don't know if they're ever going to pick up.
I mean, that is an interesting point. The games have been really lively since things have come back. There's always been a consistent, pretty deep waiting list. The real problem is that they're having a real issue getting dealers. So we're running into the problem of having, 30, 40 person deep waiting lists, and there's a bunch of tables that are there, and there just aren't enough dealers.
Are you associated with the All In Poker podcast?
Yes, I am. I'm
okay.
one of the co-hosts of the All In Poker podcast.
Okay, yep. Yeah. Someone said give a shout out to the All In Poker. I've seen that. I don't know if I've listened to it before. Just before you get into the hand, you bring up I stopped at Taco Bell after my session at the lodge. I played a session at the lodge on Saturday, not on the live stream. I was just super starving, and I don't usually like to do that. And it was like 1:30 in the morning, and it was in my town, and I asked the guy, I'm like, what time are you guys open till? Because I didn't remember how late they were open till. And he was like, well, we're supposed to be open till 3, but it's really weird time now. We don't have enough employees. So I'm not trying to I'm not going to go down the political road, but we are in an interesting sort of crossroads right now with the amount of stimulus that's been being given from the federal government and sort of these traditional, I would say, it's surprising that dealers jobs would be hard to find, because I feel like you're going to make more than, say, like working at Taco Bell, but a lot of low wage income jobs, people are sort of making as much, if not more, continuing to be, on unemployment. So it's an issue.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, if anyone is looking at becoming a dealer, now is the time, because whereas previously, pre-pandemic, it would take you a year to get benefits and things of that nature, a lot of places are offering benefits up front and cash bonuses.
Yeah,
so,
cash bonuses to sign, right? Cash bonus to sign.
Right. Yes, like $2,000 cash bonus to sign at both of the casinos.
That's interesting. All right, so 2-5 $800 cap at Foxwoods, okay.
Absolutely. So I am $600 effective. I am in the big blind with Jack 9 of diamonds.
Okay.
The under the gun one player limps, but I don't see it.
Okay.
The button raises to 15, and I have some previous history with the button. He's a kind of a goofy European guy.
Okay.
Who is there a lot and drinks quite often. I mean, we're here on I think a Tuesday afternoon, and he's having a few beverages. So he opens to 15, and I didn't notice the limp, so I figured this was just a standard open, and I flat in the big blind, and then I noticed the limper, and he calls behind.
So if you had noticed the limp, how would that have changed what your approach would have been here?
I think I would have been more apt to squeeze, because I know the European player. I've played with him before. I don't know the under the gun one guy as well. This is my first time playing with him. So I know the European guy has quite a loose range. He loves to just call with pairs post flop. So I absolutely would have isolated. I would have raised to probably 45 out of position.
Because you don't want the limper to come in and you think there's immediate fold equity, right? Jack 9 of diamonds is going to be hard to play from out of position. That's one of the newer school things, and I can get on board with it. I've talked about this before, with sort of raw, using the computer tools and sort of raw computing power as it's sort of exponentially increased over the last 10 to 15 years. You can just play out literally billions of scenarios, and how like gap suited connectors. I mean, you do have a little bit of high card value, but like a hand like 5-7 of diamonds, like playing that from out of position is just really, really negative EV. Whereas I would do it all the time. I'd be like, shit, like, okay, one guy limps, I get 5-7 of diamonds, I'll call, even though there's a limper, and now it's probably going to be a 3-bet or fold. I'll get lazy sometimes. Like I called 7-8 of diamonds multi-way and small blind at the lodge.
We all do.
But yeah. So all right. So 3 ways. So we're 40. Was it 45?
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
I think with a little bit more with the big blind.
Okay.
The flop is the 9 of clubs. the 8 of diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
and the 4 of hearts.
Okay, so you flop top
Ring.
pair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I check. The under the gun limper checks, and the button bets out here for $20.
Check. Button bets 20.
Yep.
Okay.
This was interesting. I opted to just call here. I think would the raising options really be weighted more towards ace 9 and king 9, stronger nines than this? I mean, I do have a backdoor as well. Plenty of backdoor equity.
Actually, I will take a little bit of exception with what you said, or I disagree a little bit. So this is a weird situation when you're thinking about protection raising, because you don't usually see that in a multi-way scenario. It's hard to run this like against a limper. So
Right.
what I was going to say is that, oh, you would see a reflection of a raise if heads up, but actually I would tend to, and I think that this is correct from what the computers are saying too, especially with the backdoors, like 10-9 and Jack-9, I would say we're probably going to be raised off more than ace-9. And that has to do, even with this backdoors, that has to do with just the protection that you need. If you wanted to make a protection type of raise, you can share the kickers with someone, which is actually good, right? Like if they're barreling with ace king, ace queen, allows you to call down across many other streets if you have ace 9, but 10-9 and jack 9, you're not going to have that. But then you also have additional backdoor equity that you can pick up too. So if I was considering making an equity protection raise, I would do it more so with 10-9, jack 9 with the backdoor. That's just a little subtle thing. So you call, and what does the limper do?
The limper also comes along. He just calls.
Okay, so limper calls. Yeah, I haven't seen this spot talked about all that much with like this specific thing. Like, I mean, I could see it. You might want to raise for protection and just sort of get the limper out of there with some equity that he might have too.
Right.
So I don't think it would be terrible. I mean, the guy's betting 15. That's a pretty small bet. I mean, I think you could make it 45 or 50 here too. Once in a while, you might, I mean, probably not for 45 or 50 against a limper. I'm just wondering once in a while if you would ever get a better hand to fold, like if the guy's, limped in with king 9 suited, but it's probably not going to happen. So limper calls, you call, limper calls, and it's like maybe 105 or 110. I'm going to put 105.
Yep, it's 110.
Okay.
So we are headed to a turn.
Yep.
The turn is the jack of spades.
Okay.
Full rainbow.
So you turn top 2 now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the turn's the jack of spades and you hold jack 9 of diamonds.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So now it checks to the button again. And the European bets out $45 into 110. I tank here for a bit, and I opt to check raise to 160. I think in large part because I think he's going to have a lot of 10x with a pair. So a lot of 9-10, jack 10, 9-10, jack 10, 10-8. So things like pair plus draw that he's absolutely going to call check raise with to see a river.
You check raise to 150?
160.
160. There's a couple. Let's talk about this spot. There's a couple things going on here. Number one, I don't know how you said he was kind of goofy.
Yeah, he's the nice guy.
Traditionally, so he's sort of a recreational player, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's take a look against a better player, how would I attack this? Like if it was a very strong player and we were in this situation, if it was a strong player and we were in this specific situation, I actually think that you definitely are allowed to have some lead outs here on the turn. And this might be one of them to do it with. Usually it's a reflection of when straights come in and you balance it with some pair plus straight draw bluffs, or, pair plus straight draw, sort of semi bluffs, backdoor flush draws that you sort of pick up, although it's not present here. And then I would say that a stronger player here would be doing a lot of checking if he thought that he was sort of up against stronger competition, especially two ways. So if you flip this into sort of a high stakes game, it's hard to sort of think about it, but maybe like you called in the middle blind and then the straddle called and everybody was a decent player. I don't think that there would be a very large reflection necessarily of over pairs being bet into two people. And for that reason also gives you sort of the chance to just come out and lead. You throw all that out the window here, but it's just interesting to note, thinking about sort of a higher stakes play. I still very well might lead here. Now, because I just think that the button's going to be checking it through a lot. Now, when he bets again, you know, it would sort of indicate that he has something. There's no backdoor draws. I mean, I guess he could have like king 10,
Right.
and you could get coolered here with sort of queen 10, but I don't mind the check raise. I don't think it's really necessarily like an overplay, and you have this other guy in there too. And usually like in these games, like if he has aces, kings, or queens, that's fine because he's just going to bet and call, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. So the under the gun limper actually calls the 160, and the button folds.
Someone says I have a typo here. What is it? 9 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, 4 of hearts. Oh, I just put the turn
you said
in.
river
Oh.
instead of turn. Yeah.
Wow. Jesus. Boy, that's very fucking nitpicky. Jack is all right. So here a check raise is a 160. Big blind calls.
The under the gun.
Under the gun, excuse me.
He calls.
Yeah. Under the gun calls. Okay. Yeah.
And the button folds.
And the button folds.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, he bet folded there.
So now, well, if I was the button and I was betting over pairs, this is a snap fold with aces, right? I bet, let's say I'm gonna continue to bet an over pair here. I'll bet kings or aces, and then it goes check, raise, call. I'm done, which is fine,
Yeah,
right?
right.
especially with the straight out there, so that if someone had, I can't improve to like a better two pair. So you put in 323, 65. I want to say it's like 475 now.
Exactly.
Like that?
475.
475. And what are the stacks left here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started at 600 effective.
Okay, so 160, 180. So it's like maybe 400-ish left, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's 475 in there. I have that back. I actually opt to. Well, I haven't said what the river card is yet, have I?
Uh-huh.
So the river card comes and it's the 7 of spades.
So if the river was a blank, what do you think that this under the gun guy like has cold called your check raise with on the turn? Because there's no backdoor flush draw, right?
Yeah, there's no backdoor flush draw. It's a rainbow board. Yeah, I mean it was not what I was looking for. Definitely not the desired outcome of the check raise. I really don't know what to weight him towards. I mean, I guess he can have flopped 9-8 for 2 pair, and then just called, and then the turn's kind of gross, but he calls the check raise. But I mean, I think he has a lot of thick value here, like 8s.
Yeah.
And 4s.
I'm really concerned, even if the river's a brick here, by him cold calling the check raise, because sometimes what you'll see is a guy from under the gun will have like an over pair and just won't ever release it. But if you go to pre-flop, that's just not going to happen. So sometimes a guy will wake up with an overpair that he was trying to limp re-raise, but he's under the gun and he gets the raise from the button plus you call. So that's always going to be limp re-raised off. So he doesn't have an overpair. You hold top 2 on the turn. So when he cold calls the check raise, and it seems like he might have all the queen 10s here, or he was slow playing, you usually don't see a reflection necessarily of a multi-way slow play, but once in a while, to the point where I'm saying is that if the river's a deuce here, I would seriously consider checking and possibly folding, or checking and evaluate. I think you have absolutely run out of value. Now, that does not mean that your hand was an overplay, because something else happened in between. You were trying to basically target the button from betting twice. We just talked about that. Hey, maybe he will bet and call with aces, kings. Let's say you check raise the turn, the button called, the other guy folded. Then by all means, you're going for value against one pair at the end. But this guy out of nowhere has cold called your check raise. Now I feel like you don't have the best hand. So when the river obviously is a 7, it changes things like one of the other things too. Excuse me. Actually, it's very bad for you, because one of the other hands that he could have had that he's just sort of bad, like is like a jack 10. Or a 9-10 that he's just very sort of, he doesn't want to fold. Now he's open-ended plus a pair. He doesn't want to fold. So that's why if the river's a brick here, so again, the flop is 9-8, 4, turns a jack, river's a 7, but let's say the river's a deuce, you could theoretically check with the intention of check folding on a river deuce, but that doesn't mean that you're always going to lose the hand. It could just go check, check. He'll just check back jack 10. But here, I can't imagine really anything but check folding here, because I just don't think he's going to be, with this action, I don't think that he's going to be betting anything worse for value here.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening is I check, and he bets out 250. And in terms of like live reads, this guy had me well covered pre, So, he's probably 1200 pre-flop. And at Foxwoods, they allow you to play with cash on the table. So he started the hand with 3 bills under his stack, and he pulls out 2 of the bills and then puts the $50 on top of it. And I love the fact that they allowed people to play the bills at this casino, because I think that absolutely they use the bills in the situations where they're going for value without thinking that like it's a pretty easy read that you're putting out the actual physical money. Like psychologically, it makes it harder for them to bluff with that. I don't know if that factors into this at all, but I thought that was pretty interesting that he chose to bet with the cash when he absolutely had enough, 25.
So you think that that's a live tell that it's a bluff when he bets with the cash?
No, I think it's a live tell that it's value.
Oh, okay, that's live tell that it's value.
Yeah, I think
I haven't played with cash in so long. I don't know really what to say about. I mean, it's been so long. I mean, that could be, but I just, a couple people again. I addressed this. Over pairs don't really get here like this because they would have limp erased pre-flop and they're just going to check behind on the river. I mean, I just think this is just a trivial fold. I think the hand would have been more interesting if the river's a brick and you check and he bets 250. I'm assuming that you folded here. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. Okay. I thought about it for a quick minute and I was like, there's just, like you said, there's absolutely no way when he cold calls that check raise and then bets 250 here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just screams value to me.
And then did you ever find out what he had?
No, he was a very, very quiet guy. I asked, but I don't even think he heard me. He had earbuds in.
Yeah. That's too bad. But
yeah, it is. I'd love to know.
I mean, I think that I might have led the turn. Just a little, like I said, a little bit of a takeaway. I don't really have that big of a problem with your check raise, but when you're targeting one person, then somebody all of a sudden wakes up in between, things have to change, right? So it's not an overplay. It would be an overplay if you check raised the turn and the preflop raiser called, and then you were somehow scared that you didn't have the best hand, and then was forced to check the river. That's an overplay. If you're in a situation where you're scared when somebody calls, who is the person that you're targeting, then you've done something wrong. But this guy's not the guy you were targeting. He was just there, and he just wakes up. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
It's interesting too if you check raise and the button only calls and the river's a 7. What you would do against the button as well.
Right. Because like I said, I weighted a lot of his range towards Air Plus in terms of the things that I was ahead of.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So All In Podcast,
so
right? All In Podcast?
Absolutely. The All In Poker Podcast, all 4 words. I'll hop in the chat.
Oh, because you guys got sort of cock-blocked by the All In Podcast, which is Chamath and Jason Calacanis.
They were there first.
Were they?
So we came in after them, to be fair to them.
When did you guys start?
We started a little bit over a year ago. So last February, I believe. Towards the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, so they started.
You helped us get started, actually. I appreciate you so much. You helped us figure out how to work StreamYard, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So thank you so much.
All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. So we do have 2 more callers here. We're going to move through them. Let's go to Dave here. It looks like it says he's from the Nebraska area. Is that right, Dave? Hello.
Yeah, that's correct.
How you
Hello,
doing?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey. Nebraska, where poker is now legal, but but we don't have a casino yet, so we all go to Council Bluffs, just outside of Omaha here to play.
In Iowa, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's a place I have not been to, but that was Caesar. I think I can go. I think it's Caesar. Is it still Caesar's? Council Bluffs? Yeah. So I can go there with the 7-star. By the way, I was listening to another podcast that I listen to on a regular, which is Poker Fraud Alert. My buddy Dan Druff, and he was telling me that the Win is doing a matching program, a loyalty matching program of MGM and Caesars, which means I can go over and take my 7-star card and get the Hyatt, because the Wins are the best properties. I mean, no one's going to argue with the Win in the Encore. So that's another reason why I might just head to Vegas just to get the matching. But okay, so what size game are we playing at?
This is actually a 1-3.
Okay. And the buy-ins?
It's a $300 cap.
Okay.
And sorry, I had the wrong hand up. There we go. And it's a very full, very loose passive table. Full. Most people are sitting quite a bit heavier than 300.
Okay.
But the effective stack in this particular hand is only 380.
Okay. So 380, and then again, for people that aren't really sort of super familiar with capped no limit, that's actually smaller than you would think. Like in the math, it's 125, but you'll see, I'm sure that people open a 15, right? And then large sizing post. You get into very, very awkward situations very quickly, multi-way.
Yeah, this table, oddly enough, was almost consistently 12, which is just 4x, which is
But
actually
still,
relatively small for live.
it is, but still, if you go 12 and you get 4 callers, you can see. Right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it just gets weird so quickly.
Yep. Okay. So 1-3,
sure.
380 effective.
Yeah. The so middle position limps.
Okay.
I'm in the cutoff with the ace of spades and the 8 of spades, and against the limp, I actually make it 15.
Okay. So you raise over one person to 15 with the ace 8 of spades.
Correct.
Okay.
The button, the big blind, and the middle position all call.
Button, big blind, and MP calls. So looks like
Okay.
it's 4 ways, $60 maybe.
Yeah, I think I put 45 in the thing, but yeah, it's 60. Sometimes
Okay.
I forget my money's in there.
Okay.
The flop is the ace of clubs, the jack of clubs, and the ace of diamonds.
Okay. So you flop trips. Ace of clubs, jack of clubs, ace of diamonds. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
so
so
I flop trips.
Weak trips, front door flush draw.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things where I mean, your hand is better than, say, having like ace 3, but I will point something out here where, say you had raised with ace 3 of spades instead of ace 8 of spades. If people are in these games are playing like 40, 50% VPIP, you're going to see a lot of reflection of all ace X called, even the offsuit ones. So you have to, I mean, it's kind of hard, when you're very shallow, obviously, to get away from it. But, if you're deeper, it's something to think about when you're at these small stakes games. If you have a small suited ace and there's a couple aces out there, that it's not just that they're going to have suited aces. They might have all the aces.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So ace of clubs, jack of clubs, ace of diamonds. I assume it gets checked to you?
It does get checked to me.
Okay.
And I bet half pot. It says 25, but I bet half pot, so it would have been
30?
30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the button raises 30, so he just min clicks it back.
Okay.
This guy who has never raised in his life, and the big blind in the MP fold.
So the big blind and MP fold. It's kind of funny that you say he never raises in his life like he's some sort of nit. Now, I'm gonna throw something out at you, super extreme. If the guy never, I mean, ace 8 is a little bit of a off one because he could be raising with just a weaker ace, I guess, thinking that he just has the nuts. But like, if you had like ace 3 here and you got raised against the biggest fucking nit in the world on ace jack ace, couldn't you just fold?
I definitely considered it even with ace 8.
Yeah. I mean,
but the guy was also on massive monkey tilt.
Well,
he had,
well, then that's
gotten
different.
aces cracked twice in 40 minutes, and
Okay,
he was,
so
some stuff may have been going on.
Here's the thing. So that's actually much more pertinent information. I remember an old sort of cash plays interview that I did with Barry Greenstein, and I would say it's probably still relevant. Is that you can go into a game and look at the lineup and it doesn't look good, but if there are people that are tilters and the right people are losing, it can be a very, very good game. So if somebody's on tilt and they are just playing sloppy because of it, then also too, what I would do here is I would just sort of play it as a bluff catcher then. There's no way I'm folding against a guy who's on tilt. Just let him airball his ball a stack off. But that's much, much different than sort of the old man coffee, I'll call him the Red Rock type in Las Vegas during the day. So you bet 30, button raised to 60, everyone folds, and I assume you call?
Correct.
All right, so hero calls. And you've put in 120 on the flop, so it's probably like 180. And so you put in, so you got like maybe over maybe 315 left, something like that, like 2 pot size bets left. Or under 2 pot size left. Okay, ace jack ace, you have ace 8 of spades. Okay, what's the turn?
3 of hearts.
Okay.
Too bad I didn't play ace 3, right? So
right. Yeah.
So hero The button bets a stack.
So you check, right?
He
Hero
didn't
checks.
count. Yes, I checked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The button just kind of grabs a portion of one of his 100 stacks and sticks it out there.
He bets
I
100.
don't know how much that actually is. He did not bet 100. He bet a portion of 100. My guess is 70. Well, I grabbed a stack and matched it up, and it happened to be exactly that. So I don't 100% know how much I called in the turn. Probably $70.
Let me just give you some
I
advice.
feel really stupid about that.
Yeah, why not just ask how much the bet is instead of just...
I almost always would. I have no idea what happened here. Squirrel ran by or something. I don't know.
So he bet 70 into about 70 into 180. I'm just doing some math again. After that, the pot's 320, and you guys have probably 240 left. So here's the thing: like, you have enough to not move all in. So going with your whole thing, especially if the guy's on monkey tilt, then you're just gonna play this as a check call, no matter what comes. I'm just gonna do it no matter what comes, even if it's a club. I mean, if you want to tell me like it's a club and he jams, and like, even when the guy's on tilt, the guy never jams with anything, ever, maybe. But so hero checks and button bet 70 and hero calls, right? Hero calls. So now the pot is 320. Okay. All right. What's the river?
So the river is the 7 of clubs.
Oh, okay. So the river's the 7 of clubs. Okay.
Yeah, fun times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I mentioned in the email, the way the dealer is dealing and the angle at which we're sitting, I can see the 7 of clubs before my opponent can.
Okay.
And the button moves all in out of turn before the 7 of clubs hits the board.
So you're saying that he didn't see...
I don't know what to...
So you're saying
he
that
did not see the 7 of clubs.
So you're saying that he moved all in before the 7 of clubs came.
Correct. It wasn't like as soon as I called, he moved all in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
He just moved all in like as the card was coming off the deck, but it was there. He can't see it yet. It has to get to a certain point in its trajectory before he can actually see the card.
Right. I understand what you're saying. Whereas somebody actually might move all in anyways. Like if you were in a situation where out of turn, because this guy's in position, right? If you're in a club
Correct.
where out of turn action is binding, he could move all in out of turn, right, in position, and it's going to stay. And then he doesn't know if the 7 of clubs is going to come out. So that even though he didn't do that, that's what you're saying, that he's moved in before the 7 of clubs has basically come, right?
Correct.
I mean, it changes things in the sense that he might have he was going to go all in anyways, right? And he was on the come. I mean, here's the thing. If you didn't tell me the guy was on monkey tilt and you just told me the guy, I mean, this is why sort of live poker is kind of interesting. The guy was kind of nitty and you had gotten to this river and he moved all in, I would fold. Sure. But I mean, you're telling me that he's on monkey tilt. I can't make that. I mean, it looks like if he bet 70 and he raised you, yeah, like, I mean, it looks like, the bet is probably like 225 into 320, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, if he moved in without seeing the card and he's on monkey tilt, I'm going to call. If you didn't tell me that, then I would fold. That's my answer.
I mean, verbally he was on monkey tilt, but it didn't seem like he was necessarily playing his cards worse. He had made a crying call on the river with a set of aces on a 4 straight and lost to 2-3 offsuit where the 3 is the straight. Ouch. But other than that, he hadn't really done too much of that, and he hadn't raised like anyone in a hand. That was just so weird.
I mean, again, this is just, I don't, if you don't think it's affecting him that much and he doesn't put a lot of money, if you gave me no history, I would tell you this is a very sort of easy fold, I would say, for the most part. So if I'm telling you I have no history on paper, this is a relatively easy fold, then there has to be something egregiously in the other direction, like a guy just bombing off his stacks for me to call here. So it's really like I have called here in this situation against somebody that's on monkey tilt. On paper, it would be a fold for me.
That makes sense. And that's kind of where I was going with it because, monkey tilt or mild tilt or whatever, he's still, red is a old man coffee on my, readout here.
So what did you do?
I did end up folding. I took a few seconds just to kind of see if I had missed anything elsewise in the hand, but
Did he show the hand?
I folded. He showed the 10 of hearts.
Interesting. The 10 of hearts. I mean, that...
Could he have thought that ace 10 was just the absolute nuts and was just going for it? I mean, what if I accidentally just get beat by a bluff or something? That's stupid.
Well, I don't think it's a bluff. I don't think he's bluffing.
Not a bluff, but
not
like
with ace 10, but...
Right. It's like a...
I would tend to think he probably had ace 10, right? I mean, if he's playing all the offsuit aces, there's still 3 combos of it, But if he actually saw the river card, it would be a strange bet. Like, I would expect if someone had ace 10 off here, given this action where they raise the preflop raiser, bet the turn, and a preflop raiser check calls, and the river's the 3rd front door club, that he would probably check back with ace 10. Most likely he would check back with ace 10, but if you're saying he's just basically, moving it in anyways, I wouldn't feel too bad about the fold, but I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
All right. So we do have one last caller here, which is kind of a bonus. Usually we will just do 4 callers. This week was a little bit weird with the submissions because we had a couple of late cancellations, but if you do want to get on the show, you can email me, bart@crushlivepoker.com. And the way that it works is I usually read all of the emails on Sunday. And then I will decide which emails to pick for the next day's show. So, like, if you email me now, I get a lot of emails me during the show, I won't get back to you for the next, say, 6 or 7 days. So just hang tight. Usually I'll try to send an email out for the people that do email on Mondays, being like, hey, I'll read them on Sunday. But I get a ton of submissions. So if you are not a Crush Live Poker subscriber, people are asking me, what do they mean by subscriber? Not subscriber to the YouTube channel, a Crush Live Poker subscriber over at crushlivepoker.com, either the basic or the premium. The basic is $19.99 a month. The premium is $39.99 a month. And, I've got live content up that I've been putting since 2012. And I do most of the content myself. It's mostly no limit cash. We do have some tournaments. We have some PLO. And then I also do high-low stuff too, Big O and 08 stuff. But if you're a Crush Live Poker subscriber, I will always give you a response and you will get priority to be on this show. Let's go to the last caller here. This was a late edition, or we had sort of had some communication thing, but this is Terry, right?
Yep. Hi, Bart.
Thanks, Terry, for being patient with us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. You got a hand for us?
Yeah, so I play 2-5. It's a very, very good game. It's a home game. It's a 200 to 1,000, but as the night goes on, it kind of becomes match the stack. So the games get pretty good, pretty big too.
Okay.
All right. So in this hand, I'm in the big blind. I have pocket aces. We'll call them black aces.
So what are we dealing with effective stacks here?
So it's 2 stacks. So I'll go as I go along. I'll tell you what they are.
Okay. Where's this played out of, by the way?
It's in Frederick, Maryland. I live in Hagerstown, Maryland, but the game up there is the best game I've ever been to by far. I only get in about once a month.
Is it like a private game, or is it a?
It's a private game.
Oh, okay.
They keep it very loaded, and the only other competent player is an attractive girl, and that's the reason she gets in. So
Nice.
One of my good friends runs it, so I do get in every now and again.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm in the big blind with pocket aces. I just started out of the small blind incorporating some limp strategy, but that's irrelevant. I'm in the big blind because there's a button straddle, $10 button straddle almost every hand.
Okay.
So I raised to 60, which is on the larger side, but that is purposely. I would raise to at least 50 no matter what. Depending on how the game is, I'll go larger.
And how deep are you?
I'm 4,500 effective with middle position. Who's the first caller?
Okay. So MP1 calls.
MP1 calls,
yep.
60, and then it comes around to the button, who calls 50 more. He has approximately 900.
Okay, so he's not that deep.
He's not that deep, no.
Okay.
And as good as the game is, these are two of the relatively more reasonable players.
Okay.
So flop comes out. It is Queen 10-6 Rainbow. It's, we'll say club, spade, heart. I go ahead and continue for $100. They can have any of the suited or offsuit broadways. They can have any suited connectors, gappers, pocket pairs. They can have anything. So I'm just going to keep betting on this flop. Might have actually wanted to go a little larger, but I've bet 100 into 180.
Mm-hmm.
And middle position calls, and then the button calls.
They both call.
The turn is an ace, which completes the rainbow. So I don't know if I told you the right suits on the flop, but
What? Yeah, I mean, what are the
Kinda.
suits in your? So I'll just club, spade, heart, diamond. Do you have like black aces or something?
yep, I have black aces.
Okay. All right. So queen of clubs, 10 of spades, 6 of hearts. You bet 100 into 180 or 190. MP1 and the button are in there, and they both call. So now the pot
both-
is 490. The turn is the ace of diamonds, so it gives you top set. Now, what's interesting,
Right.
again, here, though, specifically with this turn is I don't know how good a turn this is for you. And the reason being is that, you having three, like I would, again, much rather have, say, pocket queens or pocket tens here. You having three aces is going to block a lot of people with any type of turned aces up, even ace jack or something like that. And if they don't have an ace, it's the mega scare card. And then, of course, what jumps out at you is that
King
all
comp
the
king jack.
all the king jacks come into play. So I got to be honest with you. If you're up against two hands here, this might not even be a bet. With no front door flush draw out there, again, people might say it's a little bit sort of on the nitty side, but this is what I'm going with. Like I said, it's the ultimate scare card. You blocking all the aces, and then king jack is really staring you sort of square in the face against two hands that maybe all these, maybe all the king jack offs are present here. Now,
Right.
if you had enough,
And they definitely are.
If you had enough stack depth here and you wanted to sort of bet and call, that's fine too. But the fact that the button starts with like 900 and now he's got 750, it can certainly be a little bit sort of on the awkward side. With that being said, if you check and he bets, and you call and the river's a brick and you check and he bets all in, you're probably going to have to call. So let's see what happens here. But that's what I'm saying with the sort of the stack sizes. But that's sort of what jumps out at me, is that this isn't the absolute best turn card for you, even though it gives you three aces.
Under reasonable or under normal conditions, I would have thought the same way. But for me, they just call so much. Queen jack now picks up a gut shot. 10 jack picks up a gut shot.
Yeah, but are those hands calling your turn bet though? If you bet again,
Yes. Yeah.
Queen jack and jack 10 are going to call on queen 10 6 ace.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, then okay, then obviously you can widen your value range. I don't know if because I'm watching all these TCH things and I don't know if I buy that jack 10 calls here or queen jack calls here on the turn or king queen. Now, if you're saying that they do, then okay, then you can make the adjustment. So the pot's 490.
So that's just what was going on in my head from playing there. The times I played there, the players I played with, they're more calling stations than anything. And I just thought, I have outs against king jack, and I can get value from some things, even though the ace isn't the best card, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to bet 350, which is once again on the large side. That just kind of is what I default to in this game.
Again, but I mean, I think also too that your sort of the range of your opponents calling with what you want them to sort of call down with, like a queen jack and a jack 10, has to be a function though of your bet size. Like if you want to target those hands, okay, then maybe you bet 150. But the guy's going to call 350 here on the turn with jack 10 with queen jack.
King queen probably, but I think the bet was too large on the turn for sure.
Okay, so you bet 350.
Yeah, and I know middle position pretty well. He's not a reverse tell type of guy. I was 100% certain that what he did was him thinking about raising and then just calling the 350. So I see that happen, and then the button goes ahead and goes all in for 750.
So MP1 calls, and the button moves in, right, for 750?
Right, which at this point, after that big of a bet and him thinking about raising, I don't know if he decided not to raise because he had a strong hand, but not strong enough, or if he decided to just go ahead and try to get the button in as well with King Jack. So it comes back to me, and now I'm in kind of a tough spot.
Well, you have to at least call, right? So 350
I
call,
have to call.
Yeah, 350 call is 700 plus another 750 is 1450. It looks like toward moving to the after the flop it was like 500. So I mean, the pot's 1950. It's 400 for you to call. I mean, you're getting direct odds anyways, and there's really no reason to 3-bet. So
right.
I mean, just in
But
case
what I
this
was
guy's in
concerned
sandbagging
about-
in between.
What I was concerned about happens. He now makes it middle position. Now makes it 1750, so 1,000 more.
So Hero calls the 400, and now MP1 back raises. This is a back raise, by the way, guys, to 1,700 straight. 1,700 total, right?
So
1,750.
1750, so 1,000 more exactly.
I mean, here's the other thing too, is that I feel like sometimes these, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Terry, sometimes these hands are sort of gotcha hands. Like they're like, oh, this guy's going to show up with like queens or tens or something like that. But the other bad thing about this is that the button's already moved all in. So MP1 back raising here is he's got to beat the guy from the button. Let's do some math here. So Hero bets 350, call at 700, and then where he said it's like 1950, and then he now makes it about so it's like 1,000 for you to call. Is that right?
1,000 for me to call.
So the pot's like 20. The pot's like 3,000, 1,000 for you to call, right? Probably.
Yep.
So
yep, approximately.
Pot is 3,000, 1,000 to call. And you guys have, if you start, this is a huge function of this spot.
2,600 more.
Yeah, so if you have
26 behind.
So if you have 2,600 more here, what I would be thinking
after I call the 1,000,
right?
Yeah.
After you call, which is key, right? So you're getting 3-1 now in immediate odds, right? So let's say, I mean, the thing that you're obviously worried about is MP1 having, King Jack. So you're getting 3-1 right now, and how many outs do you have against King Jack? How many outs do you have to boat with one card?
10 outs.
Right, 10 outs. And then, this is really where we can specifically use 45 as opposed to 47 unseen cards, because we're trying to figure out what your equity is specifically against King Jack, so we can take those other two cards out. So, 10 out of 45 is 3.5, right? 1 out of 4.5, which means that you only need to make 3.5 to 1 on the call. When you call, the pot's already 3,000. So to get to neutral EV here, you need to make 3,500 total from the pot. You've already made 3,000. And when you call the pot, it's adding 1,000 in there. So the pot's going to be 4,000. You only need to make 500 more into a $4,000 pot. And if the board pairs, I think that you can. Also, too, coupled with the fact that once in a while, you might have the best hand and it might go check, check. Now, I would call because you're getting such great pot odds. And then if the rivers are brick and you check and the guy moves all in, I think I would think about folding. But I don't think there's really any other play here but to call.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's what I did.
All right, so Hero calls, so the pot's 4,000.
Right.
All right.
And the river is a blank. It's a 2.
Okay.
An actual blank.
Right. So it's a 2. I'm going to put 2 clubs up. So you get the blank. And now you're in a situation where, remember, that guy has to beat the other guy, although he has built the side pot up, though, right? Because there's 2,000 in the side and 2,000 in the main, probably?
So there's 900 times 3, so there's 2,700 in the main pot. Then there's 2,000 in the side pot because it was just 1,000 over his bet.
Yeah, I don't know why my math is off here and why I'm missing something, because I thought it was pot was 3,000, 1,000 for you to call, so that would make it 4,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. If the guy
that's
started, all right, so 2,700. Maybe you're even getting better, like 2K on the side.
Right.
Okay, so I'm
my
assuming you
thinking
check.
here- right. I have to check because
Uh-huh.
if I jam or if I bet, I'm going to fold out anything I beat. And I'm going to get snapped off by King Jack. So after thinking about it, my biggest question was if a block bet here was appropriate. It's not something I thought about at the time because I don't do too much of that. But ace, we still have some sets. We have ace queen, ace 10. Maybe I can get called for a small bet for that. And then if he jams, it's just obviously a fold.
I don't think that. I mean, here's the thing with
checking.
block betting, right? So block betting can really only be correct, and I've gone over this many times, if you can get called by a worse hand. I don't think that I'm going to block here, really, because I think that every hand except maybe for King Jack is probably going to check behind as played pre-flop. And what I mean by that is that if the guy doesn't have queen, then 6-6 and 10-10 are probably just going to check behind given this action. Once you call the back raise, those hands are just going to check behind. So if you buy into what I'm saying, that those hands check behind, then there's no reason to block bet, right? Because those ones are just going to check behind 10-10 and 6-6, right? The hands that he might be overplaying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the purpose of a block bet?
Well, to get called by set of sixes, set of tens, set of queens, which I think he three bets, pre-flop, and then ace queen, ace 10. The players are stationed, so my thinking.
First of all, I don't think he's gonna bet. He's not bet 3-bet back raising ace queen to ace 10 when the button jams.
Right.
So that's out of there.
Right.
There's 6 combos of 10s and 6s, 6 combos, but there's 16 combos of King Jack. It just doesn't make sense to me to block bet here. I mean, I think this at the end here is probably a check fold unless he's gonna bet some ridiculously small amount.
Right. So I did check, and he snap checks back and flips over pocket sixes.
Okay.
So I ended up making about $90 in the hand, which isn't
the button has
worst
King Jack.
result.
Button has King Jack.
Yeah. So then the button has King Jack.
I think you played it fine. I mean, obviously I didn't know what happened with the thing with the email, but I wouldn't beat myself up about not block betting the end or jamming. I mean, this is just a little bit of unlucky. You're just a little bit unlucky that if your opponent pre-flop is going to 3-bet off pretty much always with queen and sometimes 10-10, you're just unlucky that he shows up here with 6-6 as played, but you have to protect against. You can't put your stack at risk against the King Jack. I mean, it's just a really gross overplay of 6-6 and on the turn with the back raise. And the other thing too is that he's not always going to back raise 6-6 here. I mean, you got to look at the combos and look at the percentages of times, right? And that's really the problem here with someone saying, "Oh, just jam the turn." I think that's you're stepping in it. I think it's fine. And then, again, leading to the river, I don't think you can block at the end just because there's so many hands that beat you, especially if you're planning on check folding to a substantial bet on blank. So I have no problem with the way that you played it.
It just feels weird set over setting one of these guys and not getting it. But that's. I'm glad that you agree.
It is what it is.
How I played it.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up. 5 callers. Again, if you want to get on the show, you can do so by shooting me an email, bart@crushlivepoker.com. If you want to watch some live cash game poker action, you can head over to TCH. They're doing a game, and I might be playing in that game next week. So, take a look, subscribe to the channel. I always put the call-in link up on Mondays. It'll say if I am playing, it'll probably be at 2 or 3 Eastern time. I have to start it early, but that's the beauty of the live stream. Check out crushlivepoker.com. If you want to subscribe, you can use the code YTA400 for the first month for free. And that is how I guarantee you that I will respond. Everyone's going to, it's kind of a new feature for Crush Live Poker subscribers. You can send in one email, whether it's a question or a hand, and I will always give you the time and respond. So thank you for keeping it real here in the live chat. By the way, I'm also playing on the Lodge. I'm not sure about TCH, but I will be playing on the Lodge live stream on Saturday. So you can check that out too, the Lodge live stream. But thanks for keeping it real, guys, as always. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
You know what I'm talking about. You were with me when they count me out. So I put them boogers on you now. Diamond dancing while you sway. We took it slow like on the 405. You ain't doubt it, never roll your eyes. Now the boogers on you froze like mine. On your wrist and neck and rain. They dancing, dancing. Can't help it, I wanna show her off. Pull up on him, then we skirt off. She stuck with me when I was worse off. Now we got guap by the furlong. Cause she the only one who ride like that. From the jump, she by my side like that. With me when I'm low high like that. So anything she wanna buy like that. So point it out and we can get that. The guala baby we can get back. The boogers on you, you can beat that, yeah. You know what I'm talking about. You were with me when they count me out. So I put them boogers on you now. Diamond dancing while you sway. We took it slow like on the 405. You ain't gotta never roll your eyes. Now the boogers on you froze like mine. On your wrist and neck and rain. They dancing, 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 dancing like ballet. They dancing, 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 dancing like ballet. I've been meaning to text you, I've been meaning to call. I ain't mean to upset you, didn't mean it at all. Know exactly how you like it, all your little fetishes. See my long neck, good for reaching all them little crevices. Yeah, we can drop top in the 76. In a wide body so that ass can fit. I admit it, been dealing with issues. So just cause I ain't with you don't mean I miss you. I'm your big papi and my mamacita. No Richard Nixon, I'm one in a picture. We'll do it again like we don't get amnesia. So baby, next time that I see you, you know what I'm talking about. You were with me when they count me out. So I put them boogers on you now. Diamond dancing while you sway. We took it slow like on the 405. You ain't doubt it, never roll your eyes. Now the boogers on you froze like mine. On your wrist and neck and rain.